Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bootleg, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm your host, Tom Kreager, high school sports editor at the Tennessean. The Bootleg, of course, is a high school football show where we touch base on the upcoming games, look at some trends. Generally, we'll have a special guest, but with it being a long weekend, we decided just to bring in, keep everything kind of local, and we're going to go with just myself and high school sports writer Joe Spears, and he'll be joining me right now. And now we're joined by Joe Spears of USA Today Sports Network, Tennessean, Columbia, everywhere. Joe, welcome to the show again. And just for our readers, so they know, how's those standings going in our picks this week?
You are ahead of me by one game.
Okay, all that matters is one.
So,
up by one.
I'll give you that.
Yep, it may change this week. So before we get into our top 10 games, no special guests this week. Long weekend, give everyone a chance to relax. Want to talk with you. We're 3 games into the season, and obviously there's a big storyline with COVID, with all the games that are being canceled. 30 games 2 weeks ago. I think 37 or 38 was the final count. This last week we had a couple late games that no one really knew about until after the TSA reported it as being not happening. So, but we knew that was probably going to happen. But surprises. Can you talk about? And I'll go first with my surprise. And surprise 3 games in this season. A pleasant surprise. If you're in Rutherford County, has to be Rockville. Third-year program, had only won 1 game in its first 2 years of existence. They are 3-0, and granted, one of those is a COVID win. And it's kind of a phrase we like to use now, COVID win. But picked up their first region win, beat I think Siegel 14-7. A big win there for Rick Rice and their program and what they're trying to do there. And that to me is perhaps one of the biggest surprises, knowing that right now, if you look at it, in my opinion, you just have to win one more region game. That probably, if you're just looking at who's who, probably a Blackman or a Stewart's Creek, one of those 2 programs would be the logical choices. If you win one of those games, you should be in the playoffs,
right.
Barring something weird happening. Give me a surprise.
My pleasant surprise would probably be Marshall County. Not the fact that we didn't think Marshall County was going to be good this year. They were going to be. They lost their quarterback week 1, Bryson Hammond, who was going to have a good year. I mean, all indications say that. That's a huge loss, but in comes Devontae Davis, who's really stepped into that role. He's ran for 5 touchdowns. He's thrown for 2. He's really played well. They've got a couple of close wins last week. They cruised past Creekwood, 3-0 going into a big region game against Tullahoma this week, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, I mean that's a for him to come in, you lose your starting quarterback, his senior, who's led this team to some big things the last couple of years.
3-year starter.
Yeah, I mean he's stepped into this role really well, and Marshall County's looked good the last couple of weeks, so it'll be interesting to see what he does this week.
Yeah, and I think that's a big surprise. Another surprise, and you're going to say, Kreager, what are you thinking? I think a surprise to me has been Lipscomb Academy. Not so much that they're 3-0, it's just how dominant they've been. I mean, I thought they were going to be good. I thought, I predicted a year ago that they'd win the D2 AA state championship, and kind of stand behind that right now. But they are dominant enough where I think at some point we're going to have to be in some serious talk. Are they the best team in the Nashville area, Middle Tennessee area? Let alone are they the best team in the state, maybe even the South. If you look at that offense and how dynamic it is with Luther Richardson and Broom, Alex Broom running the ball, and the receivers that he has, and I think the linebackers and secondary they're both really special. So I think they've really done some things where you look at them and think, wow, they're a lot better than maybe we thought they might be, and we thought they were going to be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that offense is loaded. They're the best team I've seen this year so far, and it's really not even close. I would say my other surprise would probably be Brentwood. Kind of the exact opposite of what we've been talking about. The Bruins 0-3. Kind of the Blackman loss to us was kind of shocking. We all had them beating Blackman, especially with what they have coming back offensively. I know they lost a lot, but Davis White, when he played last year, he looked really good. Defensively, they do return a lot, but then they lose to it was Father Ryan week 2. They only scored 6 points in the second half. Against Summit, I was at that game, and they kept it a lot closer maybe than that final score indicated. Summit kind of pulled away there in the fourth quarter. They forced 6 turnovers. It's just it's weird to see this Brentwood team struggling like they have been, because they have the pieces to be really good. And I do think that eventually they'll turn it around, as they do have a tough schedule going forward. But it was weird to see them struggle, especially all the turnovers. Just a lot of uncharacteristic turnovers, bad snaps, forced passes. Just that offense is really struggling. The defense hasn't really helped much either.
I would agree with that, and I think most of us would have thought they would be 2-1 right now. I think everyone thought Summit was probably very easily could have been the best team. It could be the best team in Williamson County among the public schools right now. Yeah. And I don't think anyone would bat an eye there. Them being 0-3, and maybe even if you're 1-2, because I think Father Ryan has really improved. But you look at what Brentwood to lose all 3. And I know Blackman came in there came in this week 2-0 before getting beaten by Riverdale. We all thought Brentwood though would probably win that game. So to be winless there is the surprise. I really thought they would probably be 2-1 at this point. No disrespect for Blackman and Father Ryan. I just thought Brentwood was still at that level, and they still I think are. I think they're trying to get on the right track. I think this team needs a win in a very, very bad way right now.
Agreed.
All right, something we want to start this right now. Okay, we're week 4. Give me a player that you want to watch this week that's going to be really key for their team's success, and just someone that obviously we can pick a superstar every week, but just try to think of just give me one person that you think is going to be an interesting matchup this week.
I think a matchup that maybe isn't getting talked enough about this week is Upperman Fayetteville. Defending Class 1A champions taking on an Upperman team that's been really good. They have a lot of weapons. The big matchup in that one is going to be KJ Jackson, Fayetteville sophomore running back, against that Upperman defense. The Bees have only given up 13 points. Granted, they haven't played the greatest teams yet. This will be their first real test this year. But KJ Jackson broke out on the scene last year, leading the Tigers to their first state title. He's kept it up this year, 592 yards, 6 touchdowns in 3 games. He's going to be fun to watch these next couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses and how Upperman approaches him, because Fayetteville has more than him, but KJ is the biggest piece of that offense. And if Upperman can shut him down, I think it'll be a really good game, but nobody's been able to do that so far. I know they're 1A and Upperman is 4A, but I still think this is a great matchup.
We'll talk about that game in a little bit. Of course, you're watching the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm your host, Tom Kreager, with the Tennessean, joined by Joe Spears, giving his expertise here. My guy to watch is Kobe Walton from Nolensville High School. They play at Ensworth this week, in which should be a really interesting game, and it's on our top 10 games of the week. But here's the thing that makes this so interesting. Of course, Kobe is their quarterback at Nolensville. He has already passed for more than 1,000 yards in 3 games. And some people, we had a question in our top 50 questions: who would lead the Nashville area in passing this year? This is a kid no one mentioned, Kobe Walton here, because one, they got Samson Johnson there, a running back that we thought was going to get a lot of touches and a lot of yards, and he is doing that. He has had a great start to the season, but I think for him to be averaging over 300 yards a game, it's going to be an interesting test against that Ensworth secondary. Of course, they're coming off a huge win against Christian Brothers, slowing down Dallin Hayden, the running back there at Christian Brothers, who's going to Ohio State. So that's the matchup for me. What will Rock Batten and the secondary do to slow down Kobe Walton? All right, let's move now to our top 10 games of the week. We've been even talking as early as today on some of our games, making sure we got the right 10. Game of the week, and this is where Mr. Joe Spears will be at. NBA 1-2 at CPA 3-0. First time they've played in a long time, and the interesting tidbit is this is CPA coach Ingle Martin's alma mater. He gets to coach against his alma mater. Of course, it's a different coach, but still an interesting, intriguing game for both teams. Joe,
yeah, Ingle led them to a couple state championships, won a couple Mr. Footballs. He's well known there. He's got the CPA team rolling. They beat a really good BGA team last week. Defensively, they shut them down. And I think the defensive side of the ball is where CPA, we all kind of knew what they were going to do offensively with Cade Law, Langston Patterson. Dawson Marrero had a really good game for him last week at running back too when Langston wasn't back there. But defensively, each week, CPA has gotten better. They gave up 21 that first game to Independence, 17 to BA, and then 6 last week. So I think this defense is starting to really come into form. NBA's 1-2 record is very misleading, I would think. They lost to a really good Pearl Cone team, and they lost to the top-ranked team in D2 AAA McCallie. So I'm really excited about this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I've got CPA coming out on top 27-24.
I think NBA's 2 losses are combined by about 8 points or so. Like they lost by 3 against McCallie and lost 5 or 6 or whatever to Pearl Cone. It was a tight game. I think both their losses are single-digit points. Mm-hmm. I got to disagree on this game. And, I'm a big fan of what Ingle Martin does over there at CPA, but I think this is a test that the Lions have not seen in that you've got Rhett Hales, a really good running back, you've got a really good offensive line, and you got Marcel Reed. And Marcel Reed, I'm telling you, Marcel Reed might be the best quarterback in the Nashville area. I mean, he is so smooth. I mean, that first week, what he did, that week 1, was tremendous. And I think if he can get back like that, I think they're going to have a great game. I think they're going to challenge I think they'll challenge CPA in like no other team has, because the quarterback play, he can take off and run, he can throw the ball, and then you got their offensive line will open up holes. I just think NBA finds a way to go on the road and win this game. I'm going NBA 20, CPA 14. Starting off with
games we don't agree on. That's good. That's a good start.
That'll give me a 2-0 lead or 2-game lead for the series.
There you go.
Life Christian Academy, they're out of Virginia, I believe. They're going to Ravenwood in a interesting non-region matchup. You talked to me about this. You've done a little bit of research on Life Christian, I believe.
Yeah, they looking into what they've done this year. They're averaging about 23 points, giving up around 20. So kind of they're 3-1 on the year. So I mean, they're getting on the right side, but they're playing some close games. They have 4 of the top 5 players in the state of Virginia, including DeAndre Martin, who's one of their edge rushers. He's going to Virginia Tech. And then Trayvon Green, he's an offensive tackle going to North Carolina. And then they got a couple other guys that haven't committed anywhere yet. So this is an interesting matchup. Chris Parson really had one of his best games last week against Franklin. I know what he did week 1. Last week, he was 9 of 14, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 130 yards and another touchdown. So I think this Ravenwood team's really – I think they're starting to click a little bit. I think they're putting that week 1 loss to NBA behind them. I think this will be a close game, though. It's obviously an out-of-state team that they're not familiar with. So I think it'll be close, but I got Ravenwood winning 24-21.
Okay. I think Ravenwood's played with several key players hurt. I think Isaac Rollins is back. I think this is a week where we hope to have Miles Pollard, who's missed the first couple of weeks, back. Hopefully he comes back this week, and that helps not only the defense but the offense, because at one point he was looked at as probably a kid that will never leave the field. And I think the Dudas kid, their linebacker, I think if he's not back, I think he's close to coming back as well. That just changes the team so much. All 3 of those have been injured. They get them all back healthy. I think that helps this Ravenwood team. And I know we talk about what Life Christian has up front and everything, the players, but I just think Chris Parson will be a game changer in this game. If Miles Pollard is back playing and he can play, I think that helps him so much. I'm going to go Ravenwood 35-20 in this game. Next game, Pulaski Academy at Lipscomb Academy. This is an intriguing game. You got the former coach, the coach that started it all at Pulaski Academy, all that success. He's gone. He's coaching at, I think, Presbyterian now. They picked up their first win of the season. He's the guy that never punts, onside kicks, goes for it and fourth down, all that jazz. And I think they're pretty much doing the same stuff from what I understand with the assistant that replaced them. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, they're averaging 61.5 points through 2 games. Their quarterback, Charlie Pfizer, he's thrown for 9 touchdowns, 765 yards. They have the number 10 player in the state of Arkansas, and Joseph Heeman. He's a Northwestern commit. So they've got players. They're still loaded. There's going to be a lot of points in this. I think for Lipscomb Academy, this will be their first real test defensively. Obviously, you're going against a team that's averaging 61.5 points. Lipscomb's averaging 69 points, though, and I kind of agree with what you said about Lipscomb. They are just the numbers they're putting up, and the fact that they were able to do it against an Independence team that is, year in and year out really good. They were able to just cruise past them easily. I think they have just too good of a team. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. My score may be a little out there, but I've got Lipscomb Academy winning 63-48.
Not a bad pick. Here's the thing. I watched this game. I watched Ravenwood play Pulaski Academy a couple years ago, the first time that we had Pulaski Academy around us. And I think this is the 3rd straight year they've come to Tennessee. They like playing this area. Ravenwood went, I think, 1-1 when they played them. The thing with Lipscomb, they got to realize that Pulaski Academy is going to score points. Yeah. It's what they do. They're going to put you in situations where they want to make you uncomfortable with the onside kicks and going for it on fourth down. They want to make you make that defense play and do things that they normally wouldn't do. They are a fun team to watch. They are a very non-traditional team to watch. I agree with you. I think Lipscomb finds a way to win this game. I think there will be lots of points scored. I think whoever is running the scoreboard at Lipscomb, they better start icing their fingers now, because there will be points scored on the field. I think I'm going to go Lipscomb 65, Pulaski Academy 56. So I think this is a high-scoring game, and this is no edict on that defense. I think that defense is really good. Yeah. I just think of what Pulaski Academy wants to do. It lends them to basically get into shootouts with every team they play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Independence at Pope John Paul II. Saw JP2 last week. You've seen Independence, I think, a couple times.
Right.
Break it down for me.
Independence finally they end that losing streak to start the year. Granted, they played CPA and Lipscomb Academy, so that's a brutal way to start the year. Joe Cummings had his best game for the Eagles, 11-16, 249 yards, 3 touchdowns. He and River Katina have a really good connection. Katina had 149 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. And defensively, they had their best showing. They held Centennial to 58 yards. So I think the competition level ticks back up this week, though. That PJP team, I know they kind of struggled there in the first half against Father Ryan. I think that Father Ryan team, I agree with you. I think they're pretty good. And Kenny Minchie did what he did to win them that game. I think this is going to be a good game, but I think PJP kind of pulls away. They kind of Kenny Minchie may do a couple things in the fourth quarter. I got PJP winning 31-21.
Okay, I'm like you. I think this is a very intriguing game. I think JP2 is playing at a high level. Indy, I think that's they needed a win in a bad way, but to open 3 of your first 4 games is Lipscomb Academy or CPA, Lipscomb Academy, and now JP2. That's 3 of your first 4. That's a tough road to start. And if you You got whoever scheduled that Independence schedule. That'd be, I guess, Scott Blade, the head coach. It's going to make them better, but man, it's a tough road. I think JP2 wins this game 28-21. Game we mentioned earlier on the show, Nolensville goes to Ensworth, who's coming off perhaps the biggest win in the state. I think last week, upsetting Christian Brothers last week. What do you got? What do you got for that game?
Yeah, you mentioned Kobe Walton and Samson Johnson. They really have that Knights offense ticking. Outside of last week, though, they've really struggled defensively. They're giving up 33.5 points in their 2 losses, and that doesn't really help them when they're going against this Ensworth team that's averaging 37 a game. Levi Moore's been fantastic this year. He's completing almost 70% of his passes. Is near 1,000 yards. He has 9 touchdowns and no picks. He has great weapons to work with. Jacob Page, Shamar Porter, Mark Smith in the backfield. I just think this Ensworth offense is kind of rolling right now. They had that loss to Baylor a couple weeks ago. They still were able to put up 28 points. Defensively, they struggled. I think they do give up some points to Nolensville. I think Nolensville's offense is too good to not score in this game. But I just think Levi Moore is a game changer here. I've got him leading them to a 45-28 win.
I agree with the pick. I think Shamar Porter, a kid that's going to be fun to watch for the next couple of years. I think he's going to be really fun to watch. And I'm picking Ensworth to win this game 42-38. I think there will be points scored by both teams, and it'll be a fun game to watch at Ensworth. And I will add, it's probably the best kept natural grass field in the entire state, if anyone's been there. So go there and examine it. And John Klinsman's the name. He does tremendous work there. Next game, Marshall County at Tullahoma. We've mentioned this before. We mentioned that game earlier. Big game, I think. You're looking at 2 of the top 3 teams in that region.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned Devontae Davis, what he's done. But Marshall County had a couple of really close wins to start the year before they really blew it open against Creekwood last week. This is their biggest test. That Tullahoma offense, you've seen what they can do. You saw him week 1 against Shelbyville. Ryan Scott's really good. He's a heck of a football player. You also got Kashawn Cummings there. He's scored 4 touchdowns this year. Last year it was kind of a one-sided game. That Tullahoma team last year was really clicking on all cylinders for most of the year. They won it 35-7. I think it'll be a lot closer this year, but I just think Tullahoma with Ryan Scott there under center still, I think they have too much. I've got them winning 31-17.
I agree with you. Ryan Scott, I think, is the difference maker in this game. I'm going Tullahoma 21-14 in what should be a really good game. I think both of them are still chasing Pearl County in that region, though.
Yeah, agreed.
Cane Ridge at Father Ryan. Cane Ridge has really responded well after that first week loss.
They have, and I mean they're doing it against teams they really should maybe beat. I would think Antioch and McGavick aren't what Pearl County is, but the way they're beating them is how they should be. They've got a lot of weapons on that offense that are finally really starting to click in a lot of places. Siobhan Abdullah really had his best passing game last week, threw for 5 touchdowns. Marty Lindsay is a really good receiver halfback combo. He's an interesting player. He can play out of the backfield. They also put him at slot. He had 3 touchdowns in that win as well. Malik Campbell came back. He was out the week 2 game. I saw him. He played week 1. But they've got a lot of weapons. But they were doing, like I said, they were doing against Antioch and McGavick. Those are teams they should be running up the score against, and they did, which credit to them. This Father Ryan defense, though, they're playing really well. And Matthew Derrick is playing really well under center for the Irish. I think he ends up being the difference in this game, and their defense kind of keeps Cane Ridge, all those weapons in check for most of the night. I've got Father Ryan winning this one 27-14.
Wow, we are so close on that game. I think I agree with you with Father Ryan. I think Cane Ridge, though, they had an impressive win against McGavick last week, and I think they had over 20 or close to 30 kids out with contract tracing or COVID, so that was a big win for Cane Ridge in that game. I like Father Ryan for a lot of the reasons you said. I think their defense continues to get better, but that's a signature of a Brian Rector team, and I'm picking Father Ryan to win this game 28-14. Here's an interesting game. Upperman at Fayetteville, game we mentioned earlier. I'll let you get started on this.
Yeah, this one I think is going to be a lot of fun. Upperman defensively, like I said, they have a great defense that's only given up 13 points. Offensively, they got a backfield of Ty Duchess, Jackson Rollins, Terrence Dedman. Any of those guys could go off for a big night. Terrence Dedman's kind of their lead back. He had a big game last week. But then you look at Fayetteville, I mean, obviously KJ Jackson doing what he does, but they return a lot from that state championship winning team, including Sam Holdmeyer at quarterback, who's been consistently good for them this year. When they need him to, he's completed passes. He's got 4 touchdowns, no picks. Upperman, you look at it, they're the 4A team. Fayetteville's the 1A team. Everybody maybe says Upperman wins this game. I've got Fayetteville winning this one. I think KJ Jackson has a big night for the Tigers, scores a touchdown late, kind of like he did last year in the state championship. I got Fayetteville winning 27-21.
Just smiling. Here's the thing with Fayetteville. I think people didn't realize how big they were up front last year. They think 1A football, they're going to be small. I thought they were huge up front. I don't know how many of those kids they got coming back, but KJ Jackson is one heck of a running back. Was spectacular to watch as a freshman. Kenny Morrison does a wonderful job there at coaching them. This is his 3rd year. I really like Upperman, and I tell you what, Adam Kane his name is so hot in the coaching world. So many coaches, his name came up with so many different coaching jobs in Middle Tennessee because he's been so successful everywhere he went. And now they're in 4A, and like I say, that's 1A versus 4A. You say, well, Kreager, you're picking it because they're 4A. I'm picking it because they're a really good team, and I think they're really good in this season. I think Fayetteville too. I think I'm the one that's given. I think I'm the only one giving Fayetteville first place vote in A people. I think they'll beat Peabody when they play. I mean, I honestly do. But I'm picking Upperman to win this game 28-21. With all that said,
it's going to be a great game. That one will be exciting.
That would be if you want a game in rural Middle Tennessee, go to Fayetteville Friday night. That'll be a great one to watch.
Absolutely.
Nashville Christian at BGA, another big game there, and again, BGA's done a great job. This is Jonas Rodriguez's team now. They're no longer that pass happy team. They're a run first. They're kind of a CPA type team offensively, which I think Jonas has got the NBA connections as well, and that's part of that why you see that, I believe. But then I think we don't talk about Nashville Christian and what Coach Jeff Brothers does, time in and time out. He does such a great job. I mean, you can make the argument that they're the best team in Division 2A. I think it's them, DCA, USJ, or your best 3 teams in D2 Single A, and I don't think there's much. Could be wrong when they play if and when they play on the field, but I just don't think there's much difference between those 3 schools.
Absolutely.
What do you have?
Yeah, if you go to this game, you're going to see a lot of running, kind of like what you hinted on. Sean Williams is the lead back at BGA. He's had a great season. Last week, they just kind of ran into a buzzsaw against CPA, and honestly, I mean, they limited CPA to 23 points. That's one of the lowest they've scored. You limit that team to 23, you're in a good position to win. CPA's defense was just too good. Nashville Christian, they're averaging close to 200 yards on the ground in games this year. Interesting stat I found for them is no player has rushed for more than 70 yards in any of their games. It's kind of a really balanced backfield. Tyler Morris at quarterback. He had a big game again in the win over FRA 2 weeks ago. This was a game I was kind of going back and forth on. I think their Nashville Christian's defense is really good. They forced 6 turnovers already. BGA, Sean Williams. I just think in the end, I've got this a really close game. I think Nashville Christian wins it though, 21-20. Yeah, another different one.
This is great. This is what we should be. I mean, it's nice to know that you're no longer looking at my picks and you're like,
yeah, there you go,
over my shoulder, and from 30 miles away or however many miles we're apart. Nashville Christian at BGA, great game, two great programs. It's going to be a great game there. Really, but I really like what BGA is doing. I think they are. They, to me, are a surprise that they've been this good. I mean, they gave Ravenwood all they could handle in week 2. I'm picking BGA to win this game 20-7. Last game. This is the game where I will be at. Westview at Fairview. Go ahead and I'll let you give me all the Ty Simpson love you can give me.
There's a reason Ty Simpson's a 5-star going to Alabama. He's been as good as advertised this year. He's completed 73% of his passes, 12 touchdown. He's closing in on 1,000 yards passing already. He does have a couple, hit 2 or 3 interceptions, I think, this year. He had 2 in the loss to Peabody, where he almost led a pretty incredible comeback in that game, ending Peabody's streak. Peabody ended up winning on the last-second field goal, but talk about Ty Simpson, but you also got to look at the weapons he's got. Javion Goins he's a great back. Garner Anderson's his big receiver. He's done well this year. Outside of Peabody, this will be their biggest challenge so far this season. I think this Fairview team's really rebounded well since that loss to Page. Kennedy Pendergrass has done well. You got Layden Grant, Jacob Clevenger as their backfield doing well. I think points will be scored in this one. I think Westview's offense is too good to keep off the scoreboard. Fairview defensively, they still have some holes. I'm not sure they've faced a quarterback like Ty Simpson. I'm not sure they will for the rest of the year. I think this will be a really good game. Westview in the end, though, I've got them coming out 35-31.
I would be willing. Here's a trivia question, and I don't know the answer. It has to be this one time. When was the last time a 5-star prospect played a game at Fairview High School? I mean, think about that. I mean, you're talking if you live anywhere near Fairview, this is your chance to see a 5-star quarterback play in your backyard. I think Ty Simpson, he's the reason why I'll be perfectly honest with you. He's the reason why I'm going to Fairview Friday night, because I want to see what this hype is all about. I want to see this kid play. I want to see if he's as good as advertised, and I think he is. And I think Coach Hughes would probably tell you that too, Chris Hughes. And I think he's got all week to figure out what they can do differently to slow them down. I think the difference right now is, Ty's finding ways to get the ball off. I think if you look at his highlight reel from last year, he was running for his life last year at times. Yeah, still making a lot of plays, but it's hard to have big numbers when you're just trying to survive, because you're getting pass rushed all the time because you don't have the protection. They're finding ways to get him some time enough to throw the football, and I think that's a big reason for it. Peabody coach Shane Jacobs gave high praise for him after their game a couple weeks ago, and I think that's the reason why you go to this game. I think Westview wins this game 42-21, and I would if I was a fan, I would say might want to get there early. I know it'd be a capacity crowd, and they got the new turf is finally open and all that, but I think this is a really good test for Fairview. Consider the fact that this is a non-region football game. This is a game that only makes you better if Fairview schedules this game to say, hey, let's see a Ty Simpson. So if we ever play against a really, really strong quarterback in the playoffs, if they're fortunate enough to make it there, they can say, hey, we've faced the best quarterback we'll face all year. So let's look at what happened there and see what we can improve on with whoever you face. But I think it's a great game. Love this matchup. Love being able to just drive on down to Fairview to watch this matchup. I'm really looking forward to this game.
Should be a fun one.
So that's our top 10 games, folks. Several games we difference on this week. We'll come back, and if I'm smiling, you'll know that I extended that lead. And if Joe is smiling, you'll know that he has pulled a rabbit out of the hat and figure out how to get in front of me on the lead. So anyway, folks, that's it for the bootleg. Next week we'll get back to our regular format with with the bringing in a coach or try to get a player in to talk to going into week 5. One more week after week 5, we're at midway point, so that's going to be an interesting point of the show. We'll have to start thinking about mid-season report. So that's it for us on the Bootleg. We'll see you next week.